Good morning, everyone. Jim Clark here at the Synchronicity Sanctuary in Central Virginia to share a contemplative focus with you today. And the focus I wanted to share today is titled Refrain from Believing Everything You Think. There is only one universal blissful consciousness, which is ultimately one blissful awareness. When we label and define a form of this consciousness, such as calling something a tree, we create a sense of separation between ourselves and this tree. The more we focus on these labels and definitions, seeing the form as distinct from the blissful consciousness it truly is, the more we limit our ability to fully experience it. This process leads to the illusion of duality and creates a fixed, rigid perspective. So, the mechanics of how we create illusion, of course, is how we create illusion is the mind. The mind can never know ultimate reality. It was not created to do that. And all the meditation traditions that have ever existed, what has always been stated is that the meditation, which is when you begin to experience ultimate reality, begins where the mind ends. This is something our teacher told us over and over again because he understood that the mind is a very powerful mechanism. We use our minds, we adore our minds, we look up to the mind in the Western society that we're in here today, and especially with the internet and everything, there's been more illusions created with the technologies we have today than has ever existed on the planet that we know of anyway. So everybody is creating illusions with their minds, and yet they're totally sold on whatever their opinions are, whatever their visions are, whatever their definitions are. And this, of course, creates massive conflict because how many people, there's billions of people on the planet, how can you agree with all of them? So the only solution to any of this is to experience ultimate reality yourself. And this is why meditation exists in the first place. It's for those who have journeyed the human journey often enough that they are now entering into open curiosity about what is ultimate reality, not in terms of trying to define it, but in terms of trying to experience it. And once you experience this ultimate reality, once you have even one moment of experiencing that reality, you're forever changed. I know this is what happened to me many years ago. 40 some years ago, 50 some years ago, but it totally turned my life upside down because I was exposed to the truth for just a moment, and in that moment everything I knew before was different. I didn't understand it, I didn't know what it was, but my journey began there. I went out of form, I went back into form. So when you meditate, or when you sit to meditate, I should say, the idea is to have a focus of some kind where you can bring your mind to a stillness and then go beyond your mind, not to maintain any kind of a conceptual focus. And this, today meditation is touted all over the internet as something that's great for stress, and it is good for stress. It's good for many things on the illusory level of existence. But ultimately, its purpose is to expose the truth of who you are, the truth of what everything here is. But reality is not knowable. Nobody can tell you what that is because it's beyond concept. It's way beyond concept. Reality, existence, and consciousness all coexist together, and because there's a space between consciousness and the human journey, and that space is where we witness where we can witness both. Our teacher had a body, he was a human being. At the same time, he was constantly in the experience of ultimate reality himself, and that's why he was called a master of meditation. He had brought himself to constant experience of the truth of everything. So, and such a teacher is a very powerful teacher because they can guide you, whereas in a way that nobody else can. They can see where you are, they can see what's stopping you and where your strong points are, etc., and guide you gradually to break away, to take the courage to leave your mind. And it does take courage because that's where we find security. This is the difference between the truth and the realities of illusion. The realities of illusion are always trying to organize things. They're trying to create comfort and safety and so forth because it's fear-based. Everything about the mind is fear-based, pretty much so, right? So, but the experience of who we truly are, the experience of blissful consciousness is always love. It's pure love, and there's nothing but that love because there's nothing else but that love. There's no other. Everything is the same blissful consciousness. All the forms are the same blissful consciousness. And if you experience that kind of a reality, there is nothing that can generate fear because there's nothing that can threaten you. You are who and what you are. And no matter what your experience is, you'll always be that awareized energy, that blissful consciousness that simply is aware of itself as itself. So we go into meditation and we sit down, we do a mantra, or we do some kind of a focusing technique. And in that process is our hope, anyway, that we will have a breakthrough. And eventually people do. We evolve ourselves as through the human journey to the point of being able to break away from our minds. This is a big step, and it doesn't happen overnight, and it's always a surprise. You never know when it's going to hit you, but it's a matter of the momentum of your evolution, your spiritual evolution. How many lifetimes have you been meditating? How many lifetimes have you consciously sought to go beyond your mind, to know what ultimate reality is? And when you're in that level of spiritual evolution, at some point you will be able to trigger that breakthrough moment where you actually experience ultimate reality, and from there to continue to experience that ultimate reality often enough that you gradually becomes a new constant for you. This is where you master life as a human being, where you master the whole process of the human journey. Because you can be in the human journey at one point, but you can be aware of the illusion that it is as you are experiencing the truth of what everything is. And this is what marks all authentic spiritual teachers. And the mark of all these teachers is simply one thing. When you're in their presence, you can feel the energy coming from them, and that energy is the meditation that we're all looking for to have. Their awareness is putting out a loving, embracing energy that has no limits and that only loves, it only stimulates us more in our journey to go further and further in our exploration of truth. Whatever you might want to call truth, it's an experience that is unknowable. The mind can never go there. This is where you have to leave the mind. This is where all you know as real disappears and goes. All the illusion of being a human being separate from all and everything else around you must go and disappear entirely. And then you're in the experience of it. That is the only knowing that ever happens with ultimate reality, with being able to touch upon the truth of who you are and what everything is when you can experience it for yourself. This is why it's very difficult as a meditator if people ask you about you know, consciousness and what is it and blah blah blah, because you can't really go there. You can point to it, but you can never talk about it because it's not knowable. You cannot speak about what that experience is. I can't speak about that experience. I can only talk about my experiences here at Synchronicity as a disciple of Master Charles for many, many years, and all my meditative experience, as well as what I experienced prior to coming here. Because his teaching was truthful, it was pointing towards that end for all of us. And how many actually had a breakthrough moment and had that experience, I can't really say. And it's not really important that I say. It's not important to judge or weigh. It's not a contest, it's a process. It's a process of evolving consciousness in what we term the creation game. Because inherently in consciousness itself, it has a desire to experience itself. Because unless you create a duality, there is no experience, because there's no contrast happening. It just simply is. So for it to amplify the truth of itself, it pretends to be something other than itself, like a human being, with all the capabilities of gradually evolving back to where it started from, blissful consciousness. And in this process, when it's active, when the game is on, shall we say, and it's definitely on big time right now, people that populate the earth represent pretty much every step of the way. There are those who are illumined, there are those who are just beginning to experience the human experience and have absolutely no idea what's going on. And this is the way it's supposed to be. It's a chaos. The nature of truth is chaos. It's not ordered. It's celebratory. It's chaos, and it doesn't need any of the safety. It doesn't need to be safe because there isn't anything else. It's constantly just exploding with the joy of being what it is and celebrating itself for the sake of itself, you might say. So that's what ultimate reality is. If we look at the history of religion on the planet Earth, which represents a time period where the illusion of separation was maximized, shall we say, and there was a judging God watching everybody and punishing those who didn't do whatever they were supposed to do. Well, this was a belief system that inundated humanity on this planet for a long, long time in some form or another. And it still exists quite a bit today, but it is not taken as seriously today as it used to be, because we have evolved as a whole beyond that particular belief system. People believe in it because they think they're safe. They're going to be saved from what we don't know, but they're saved from something, and which we call hell, which has never been experienced. But anyway, it's just a thought process, and this is why I say refrain from believing everything you think, because you take on things when we're very young that stay with us, even unconsciously. And if we take on a belief system that our parents gave to us, and then gradually at one level of our awareness we reject it, I'm echoing my own process here, there can still be pieces of that within on an unconscious level. There can be some doubt, there can be all kinds of little bits of it hanging out that can be contrary to your experience of the truth of who you are. And this is what the process of meditation does, is that when you do have breakthrough moments where you get a taste of ultimate reality and you get very, very expanded, this triggers a cleaning process, clearing process. It's also a cleaning process where the data that you still hold within you, whether it's conscious or unconscious or conscious, must be released, so that there's no conflict within you. To have that, to maintain the experience of the truth of who you are, you cannot be in conflict with yourself, because the truth is the exact opposite of conflict. And that's why meditation, real meditation, and real ashrams like Synchronicity Foundation with a real master are always in upheaval, because we're all going through this experience of meditating, having breakthrough experiences, and then all the stuff that's contrary to our experience surfaces to be released. And we're very aware of that process, but always reality is unknowable. You cannot know the truth of what consciousness is, because you can experience it because you are it. But the mind can never go there, because the mind is what our teacher always called is an illusion generating machine. It's one of the primary tools in this journey of consciousness, pretending to be what it is not, in order to experience itself for what it is through the human journey. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Everything is going on schedule because consciousness is orchestrating the show, irregardless of what people think, irregardless of what our senses and our mind tells us what's going on and who's in control, which is nobody, because you can't control consciousness. You cannot control the truth of who we are or what life is. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I thank you so much for being here and watching, and I'll try to respond to all your comments as soon as I can. Thank you, and I'll see you again next week to share another contemplative focus with you.